I thought I understood my family until they sold the car I'd saved 3 years to buy. I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how I discovered I wasn't a daughter. I was a human ATM. The first thing I noticed when I pulled into our driveway after 2 weeks in Seattle wasn't the overgrown lawn or the pile of mail by the door. It was the empty space in the garage where my 2020 Ford Mustang GT should have been. My heart stopped. For a moment, I convinced myself maybe Dad had moved it to wash the driveway, or something equally innocent. But deep down, I already knew. "Mom," I called out, dropping my suitcase in the hallway. "Where's my car?" She emerged from the kitchen with that expression I'd learned to dread over 28 years. The one that said I was about to be disappointed, and somehow it would be my fault for expecting otherwise. "Oh, Sarah, we need to talk." She wiped her hands on a dish towel, not meeting my eyes. "Your father and I made a decision while you were away. We sold your car." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You what?" "Jessica needed help with her healing retreat. You know how devastated she's been since the breakup with David. The poor girl has been barely eating, barely sleeping. Dr. Martinez recommended this exclusive wellness center in Malibu. It's exactly what she needs to recover from her trauma." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "Mom, that's my car. I bought it with my own money." "Honey, cars are just possessions. Your sister's mental health is far more important than some piece of metal and plastic. Besides, you make good money at that tech job of yours. You can always buy another one." "I saved for 3 years to afford that car, Mum. 3 years of skipping vacations, eating ramen, and living in my childhood bedroom to save money while contributing to this household." She waved her hand dismissively. "Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you were homeless. We provided you with room and board." That's when my father walked in, and I could see from his defensive posture that they'd rehearsed this conversation. "Sarah, your mother and I discussed this extensively. Jessica is fragile right now. This spa program costs $15,000, but it's a small price to pay for our daughter's well-being." "I'm your daughter too," I said quietly. "Of course you are. That's why we knew you'd understand. You've always been the responsible one, the one who makes sacrifices for the family. Always been the responsible one. Always been the one who makes sacrifices." The pattern was so clear now, I wondered how I'd never seen it before. Growing up, whenever there was a choice between what I wanted and what Jessica wanted, Jessica won. Every time. When I was 12 and Jessica was 9, I'd saved my allowance for months to buy a diary with a little golden lock. The day I brought it home, Jessica threw such a tantrum about wanting one too that Mom drove to the store and bought her the exact same diary, except hers came with gel pens and stickers. When I asked why Jessica got extras when I'd paid for mine with my own money, Mom said, "Because you're the big sister, Sarah. Big sisters share." When I was 16, I got my first job at a local coffee shop, working weekends and summers to save for a car. I'd found a reliable Honda Civic for $3,000 and was just $200 short when Jessica decided she wanted to take art classes. Expensive art classes. Dad sat me down and explained how Jessica had artistic gifts that needed nurturing, and wouldn't I want to support my sister's dreams? My car fund became Jessica's art fund. I rode the bus for another year. In college, I worked 2 jobs to pay for my computer science degree while Jessica majored in finding herself at a private liberal arts school that cost twice as much as my state university. When she changed majors 3 times and needed an extra semester, Guess who was asked to contribute to the family education fund? After graduation, I moved back home temporarily to save money for an apartment and pay off my student loans. Temporarily turned into 3 years because every time I was ready to leave, there was another family crisis that required my financial contribution. Dad's car repairs, Mum's medical bills, Jessica's credit card debt from her struggling artist phase. But the Mustang, that was supposed to be different. I'd opened a separate savings account that my parents didn't even know about. I'd researched for months, test-driven dozens of cars, and negotiated the price myself. When I finally brought it home, glossy red paint gleaming in the afternoon sun, I felt like I'd accomplished something real, something that was purely mine. Dad had looked it over with barely concealed disapproval. Seems like an expensive way to get from point A to point B. Mum had been more direct. I hope you didn't go into debt for this, Sarah. That would be irresponsible. Jessica had run her fingers along the hood and said, "Must be nice to have money to burn while some of us are trying to make ends meet as artists." Even then, even with their lukewarm reception, I'd convinced myself they were just concerned about my financial well-being. I told myself that deep down they were proud of what I'd accomplished. Standing in that hallway now, luggage still in my hand, I realised how naive I'd been. "Sarah," Mum's voice snapped me back to the present. "You understand, don't you? Jessica is going through such a difficult time." "Where is she now?" I asked. "At the retreat, of course. She left yesterday. She was so grateful, Sarah. She actually cried happy tears for the first time in months when we told her we'd found a way to pay for it." Something cold settled in my stomach. "You told her the money came from selling my car." Mum had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "We explained that everyone in the family was making sacrifices to help her heal." "Everyone in the family." I repeated the phrase slowly, tasting the bitter irony. "And what exactly are you and Dad sacrificing?" "Sarah, don't take that tone with me. Your father and I are providing Jessica with emotional support, spending hours on the phone with her, researching treatment options. While I provide the actual money. Money isn't everything, Sarah. No, but it's something. It's the thing I've been providing for 3 years, while Jessica figures out her life and you and Dad provide thoughts and prayers." I walked past them into the kitchen, needing space to process what I was hearing. The granite countertops I'd helped finance gleamed under the pendant lights I'd bought last Christmas. Through the window, I could see the backyard deck that I'd paid to have refinished, the outdoor furniture set I'd surprised them with for their anniversary. "Sarah, honey, I know you're upset," Dad said, following me into the kitchen, "but try to see the bigger picture. Jessica hasn't been the same since David broke up with her. She's been having panic attacks, calling us in the middle of the night. This retreat could be exactly what she needs to get back on her feet." "And what about what I need? What do you need, sweetheart?" Mom asked, and I could hear the confusion in her voice. Genuine confusion, as if the idea that I might have needs beyond providing for everyone else's had never occurred to her. "I needed my car, Mom. I needed the one thing that was actually mine." "Oh, Sarah, don't be so materialistic. When Jessica comes back healthy and happy, you'll see that we made the right choice." That's when I started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It wasn't even a bitter laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when you realise you've been living in a completely different reality than everyone around you. The kind of laugh that bubbles up when you suddenly see the pattern so clearly that you can't believe you ever missed it. Mum and Dad exchanged worried glances. Why are you laughing, Mum asked, her voice sharp with concern. I couldn't stop. The absurdity of it all. 3 years of financial contributions treated like nothing, my car sold without my permission, my sister at a luxury spa, while I stood in a house I'd helped pay for, being told I was materialistic for wanting to keep the one thing I'd bought for myself. Sarah, you're scaring us, Dad said. This isn't like you. That made me laugh even harder. This isn't like me. Dad, do you have any idea what is like me? Do you know anything about me beyond my bank account balance? Of course we do. You're our responsible daughter. You're the one we can count on. I'm 28 years old. Do you know what my favourite movie is? What I do in my free time? Whether I'm dating anyone? When's the last time you asked me how I'm doing without following it up with a request for money? The silence stretched between us, and in that silence I could see them mentally rifling through conversations, trying to remember when they'd last asked about my life instead of my ability to solve their problems. That's not fair, Mom said finally. We care about you. We're always interested in what you're doing. When I got promoted to senior engineer last year, do you remember what you said? They looked at each other blankly. You said, "That's wonderful, honey. Now maybe you can help us with the kitchen renovation." Sarah, we were excited for you. When I told you I was thinking about buying a condo, what was your response? Another blank look. You asked if that meant I'd stop contributing to the household expenses. Not whether I'd found a place I liked, not whether it was a good investment, but whether it would affect your cash flow. Now you're just being unfair, Dad said, his voice taking on that edge that meant he was getting defensive. We've always supported your decisions. Have you? Because it feels like you've supported my paychecks while treating my actual wants and needs as inconveniences. I walked to the refrigerator and opened it, looking at the expensive organic groceries I'd helped buy. The specialty items that Jessica liked that nobody else in the family ate. Even the food in this house was chosen based on her preferences. Sarah, I think you're having some kind of breakdown, Mum said. Her voice taking on that careful tone people use when they think you might be unstable. Maybe you should sit down. This reaction isn't proportional to the situation. Isn't it? I turned to face them both. Mum, how much money do you think I've contributed to this household over the past 3 years? I don't know, sweetie. We've never kept track. I have. Would you like to know the number? Something in my tone must have finally penetrated, because they both went quiet. $45,000, I said. $15,000 a year in rent, utilities, groceries, car payments for your cars, insurance premiums, home repairs, medical bills, and family emergencies. That's not counting the gifts, the dinner out, the vacations I've helped fund, or the times I've picked up random expenses because Jessica needed something, or you two had an unexpected cost. Dad opened his mouth to respond, but I held up my hand. And now you've sold my car, the one thing I bought entirely for myself, to send Jessica to a luxury spa retreat, and you're telling me I'm being materialistic for being upset about it. When you put it like that, it does sound like, Mum started. It sounds like what it is. It sounds like you've been treating me like a bank account with legs for 3 years, and the moment I react like an actual person with feelings, you tell me I'm having a breakdown. I grabbed my suitcase from where I'd dropped it and headed toward the stairs. Where are you going? Dad called after me. To pack some things and figure out my next move. Sarah, don't do anything rash. We can work this out. Maybe we can find another way to help Jessica, and you can buy another car. With what money, Dad? I turned back to face them from the bottom of the stairs. The money I should be saving for my own place, the money I should be investing in my retirement, or should I just work extra hours so I can replace the car you sold and still keep funding Jessica's lifestyle? The look on their faces told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't even considered that selling my car would create a financial hardship for me. In their minds, I was just a renewable resource, and resources don't have feelings about being used up. As I climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom, the bedroom I was still living in at 28 because every time I tried to leave, the family needed my money for something, I pulled out my phone and searched for the contact information I'd hoped I'd never need to use. Emily Chen, attorney at law, my college roommate who specialised in family financial disputes. I'd gotten her card at our 10-year reunion, never imagining I'd need legal advice about my own parents. But as I sat on my twin bed, surrounded by the remnants of a childhood I'd apparently never been allowed to fully leave behind, I realised that everything was about to change. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica, a selfie from what looked like a luxury spa with the caption, "First day of healing. Thanks to family support, I can finally work on myself. Love you guys." I stared at that photo for a long time. Jessica in a plush white robe, face mask on, cucumber slices over her eyes, surrounded by marble and soft lighting and everything that $15,000 could buy. My $15,000 from my car. I typed back, "Enjoy your retreat. We'll talk when you get back." Then I scrolled through my contacts until I found Marcus, my co-worker, who'd helped me set up my budgeting software last year. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I was going to do it with documentation, with evidence, and with a clear understanding of exactly how much I'd been taken advantage of. Tomorrow, I would start building a case. Tonight, I was going to allow myself to feel the full weight of what my family had done to me. And for the first time in 3 years, I was going to put my own needs first. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. I had research to do, and I needed Marcus's help with something that couldn't wait until after business hours. "You want me to what?" Marcus asked when I called him at 7 a.m. "I need you to help me pull together every financial transaction I've made for my family over the past 3 years. Bank statements, credit card payments, Venmo transfers, everything." There was a pause. "Sarah, what happened? You sound different." "They sold my car, Marcus. While I was in Seattle, they sold my Mustang to pay for Jessica's spa retreat." "They what?" I could hear him moving around, probably getting dressed. "I'm coming over." "No, don't come here. Meet me at that coffee shop on 5th Street in an hour. I don't want to have this conversation in their house." When Marcus arrived, he took one look at my face and ordered us both large coffees without asking what I wanted. "Okay, talk to me. What exactly happened?" I told him everything, the missing car, the conversation with my parents, the casual way they dismissed my feelings and treated my car like community property. By the time I finished, Marcus was staring at me with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Sarah, you know this is theft, right? You can't just sell someone else's car." "That's what I thought, but they keep acting like I'm being unreasonable. Like I should be grateful they found such a good use for my money." Marcus pulled out his laptop. "Okay, let's start with the basics. The car was registered in your name?" "Yes, I have all the paperwork in my room." "Good. And you financed it yourself? No co-signers?" "Completely on my own. I even negotiated the trade-in value for my old Honda." He started typing. We're going to document everything. Every payment you've made to your family, every expense you've covered, every time they've treated you like their personal bank account. By the time we're done, you're going to have a clear picture of exactly how much you've given them. We spent the next 4 hours at that coffee shop, going through 3 years of bank statements, credit card records, and Venmo transactions. Marcus had created a spreadsheet that broke down my contributions by category: rent, utilities, groceries, car payments for my parents' vehicles, insurance premiums, home repairs, medical bills, and what he grimly categorised as Jessica emergencies. The Jessica emergencies were particularly eye-opening: art supplies when she was going through her painter phase, photography equipment when she decided to become a photographer, a new laptop when she started her graphic design business that lasted exactly 3 months, rent money when she moved in with David, groceries and utility payments when she moved back home after the breakup. Each crisis had seemed reasonable in isolation, but seeing them laid out chronologically, it was clear that Jessica's financial crises followed a predictable pattern: new interest, initial investment, quick abandonment, repeat. "Sarah," Marcus said softly, pointing at the screen, "look at this total. $47,312. In 3 years, I'd given my family nearly $50,000. That's not counting the opportunity cost," Marcus continued. "If you'd invested this money in index funds over the same period, you'd have roughly $65,000 right now." I stared at the number on the screen. I could have bought a house. "You could have bought a house, Sarah. A nice house. Instead, you've been subsidizing your adult sister's lifestyle experiments while living in your childhood bedroom." My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. "Sarah, your father and I are worried about you. You barely said 2 words at breakfast this morning. Are you still upset about the car situation? We really need to talk about this reasonably." I showed the text to Marcus, who shook his head. The car situation, like it's some minor disagreement about curfew instead of them stealing your property. Should I respond? Not yet. First, we need to call Emily. Emily Chen had always been the most practical person in our dorm. While the rest of us were figuring out how to do laundry and living on ramen noodles, Emily was already planning her law school applications and reading contract law textbooks for fun. Now she ran her own practice specialising in family financial disputes, and from what I'd heard, she was very good at it. "Sarah? Oh my God, it's been forever. How are you?" Emily's voice was warm and professional when she answered my call. "I've been better. Emily, I need legal advice about a situation with my family." Her tone shifted immediately to business mode. What kind of situation? I gave her the condensed version. The car, the pattern of financial contributions, the way my family treated my money as theirs. "Okay, first things first. The car sale is straightforward theft. The vehicle was registered in your name. You have the title, and they had no legal right to sell it. That's criminal, not civil." My stomach dropped. Criminal? "Sarah, they stole your car and sold it. The fact that they're related to you doesn't change the legal reality. However, before we go down that path, let me ask you something. What do you want the outcome to be?" I thought about it. I want my car back, or I want the money they got for it, and I want them to understand that what they did was wrong. "Do you want to press charges?" The idea of my parents in handcuffs made me feel sick. "Not if there's another way." "There might be. But I need you to understand something. This pattern you're describing, the financial contributions, the expectation that you'll always bail them out, the dismissal of your feelings when you object. This is financial abuse. It's a form of exploitation, and it's more common than you might think. Financial abuse. The words hit me like a physical blow. I never thought of it that way. Most people don't, especially when it's family. But exploitation doesn't become okay just because the people doing it claim to love you. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I want to review all the documentation you've put together, and then we'll decide on the best approach. That evening, I sat in my room, looking at the spreadsheet Marcus had created. $47,000. 3 years of my life. 3 years of putting everyone else's needs before my own, thinking I was being a good daughter and sister. My phone rang. Jessica calling from the spa. Sarah! Oh my God, this place is incredible. I've already had 2 massage sessions and a chakra alignment, and tomorrow I'm doing equine therapy. I feel like I'm finally starting to heal from everything that happened with David. Jessica, we need to talk about the car. What car? Oh, your Mustang? Yeah, Mum told me they worked something out with you about that. I'm so grateful, Sarah. I know I don't say it enough, but having a sister like you, who always has my back, means everything to me. They didn't work anything out with me, Jess. They sold my car without my permission while I was out of town. There was a pause. What do you mean without your permission? Mum said you guys discussed it and you agreed to help me. I never agreed to anything. I came home from Seattle and my car was gone. They sold it to pay for your retreat. But that can't be right. Mum specifically said you understood how important this was for my healing journey. Jessica, did it ever occur to you to ask me directly? To call me while I was in Seattle and ask if I was okay with them selling my car? Another pause, longer this time. I assumed Mom had talked to you. She said it was all arranged. It wasn't arranged. They stole my car and sold it. And now I have to get a lawyer involved to get either the car or the money back. Sarah, you're scaring me. Why are you talking about lawyers? We're family. Families don't sue each other over money. Families also don't steal from each other, but here we are. It's not stealing. God, Sarah, why are you being so dramatic? It's just a car. Mum said you make good money. You can get another one. Just a car. There it was again. The casual dismissal of something that mattered to me. Jessica, that car represented 3 years of savings. 3 years of me living at home and contributing to family expenses instead of building my own life. And now it's gone because you decided you needed a luxury spa vacation to get over a breakup. It's not a vacation, Sarah. It's therapy. I've been severely depressed since David left me. I've been having panic attacks and insomnia. And Dr. Martinez said this kind of intensive retreat could be life-changing for me. And what would be life-changing for me, like having my own car or my own apartment or some acknowledgement that I have needs too? Sarah, I don't understand why you're being so selfish. I'm going through a really difficult time right now, and instead of supporting me, you're making it all about you. Selfish. I was being selfish for wanting to keep the car I'd bought with my own money. Jessica, how much money do you think I've given this family over the past 3 years? I don't know, some money for rent and stuff. $47,000. Silence. That's impossible. I have the spreadsheets, Jess. $47,000 in direct contributions, plus I've been living at home instead of getting my own place so I could help with expenses. Do you know what I could have done with that money if I'd kept it for myself? Sarah, you're being ridiculous. You live there too, so of course you should contribute to expenses. Do you contribute to expenses? I'm between jobs right now. You know that. You've been between jobs for 8 months. Before that, you were between jobs for 6 months. And before that, you were between jobs for 4 months. Jessica, you've worked maybe 18 months out of the last 3 years, and every time you quit or get fired, the family has to bail you out. I'm trying to find my passion, Sarah. Not everyone can just settle for some boring tech job and be satisfied with making money. Some boring tech job, my career, which I'd worked hard to build, which had given me the skills and salary that had been supporting her lifestyle, was boring. My boring tech job is the reason you've been able to take 8 months to find your passion without becoming homeless. I never asked you to support me. You didn't have to ask. Every time you ran out of money for rent or groceries or your car payment or your credit card bills, Mum and Dad would have a family meeting about how we all needed to help Jessica through her rough patch. And I was the only one in the family with the income to actually help. Sarah, I think this spa retreat is really good for you too. You're finally expressing some of your buried resentments. Maybe when I get back, we can do some family therapy sessions together. I hung up on her. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Jessica called us very upset. She says you're threatening to sue the family over money. Sarah, this is not like you. We're all worried about your mental state. I stared at that text for a long time. My mental state, not their behaviour, not the fact that they'd stolen my car, not the years of financial exploitation. My mental state was the problem. I texted back, I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow morning to discuss my options. The car was legally mine, and selling it without my permission was theft. I want either the car returned or the money they received for it. We can handle this within the family or through the legal system, but either way it's getting resolved. My phone started ringing immediately. Mom, I declined the call. It rang again. Dad, I declined that call too. Then they started texting, both of them, a flurry of messages about how I was overreacting, how families don't sue each other, how disappointed they were in my attitude, how Jessica was just trying to heal, and I was making it all about myself. I turned off my phone and spent the evening researching apartments in my area. For the first time in 3 years, I was looking at places I could actually afford. Places that would be mine, where my stuff would be safe, where nobody could sell my belongings to fund someone else's crisis. The next morning, I met Emily at her office. She'd reviewed all the documentation Marcus and I had put together, and her expression was grim. Sarah, this is worse than I thought. The pattern of financial exploitation goes back years, and it's been escalating. Look at this. She pointed to a chart she'd created. Your contributions have been increasing every year, and the justifications have been getting more elaborate. First, it was helping with necessary expenses. Then it became family emergencies. And now it's funding luxury spa treatments. What are my options? Several. First, the car theft is clear-cut. We can demand immediate return of the vehicle or compensation equal to its current market value. If they refuse, we can file criminal charges. What else? We can also pursue recovery of the excessive financial contributions you've made. There's a legal concept called unjust enrichment. Essentially, they've been unjustly enriched by your contributions beyond what would be reasonable rent for living at home. I felt something shift inside me, a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. Emily, I want to do this the right way. I want to give them one chance to make it right voluntarily. And if they refuse, I want to pursue every legal option available. Okay, I'm going to draft a formal demand letter. It will outline exactly what they owe you, the car or its value, plus compensation for excessive contributions beyond reasonable living expenses. We'll give them 7 days to respond. And if they don't respond, or if they refuse, Emily smiled, and it wasn't a particularly nice smile. Then we show them that family or not. Theft has consequences. That afternoon, I drove home in the rental car Emily had insisted I get, paid for with money from my newly opened separate bank account, the one my family would never have access to. I found Mom and Dad in the living room, clearly waiting for me. "Sarah, thank God you're home, guys. We've been so worried," Mom said, standing up as if to hug me. I stepped back. "We need to talk." "Of course, honey, sit down. Your father and I have been discussing the situation, and we think we understand why you're so upset." I remained standing. "Do you?" "You're feeling unappreciated," Dad said. "We haven't been acknowledging your contributions to the family, and that's made you feel taken for granted. We want you to know that we're grateful for everything you do for us. That's not exactly the issue. We know you love that car," Mom added, "and maybe we should have consulted with you before making the decision to sell it. But Sarah, Jessica was in crisis. When your child is suffering, you do whatever it takes to help them heal. Jessica is 25 years old. She's not a child." "She's our child," Dad said firmly, "just like you are. And we'd do the same thing for you if you were in crisis." "Would you?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the spreadsheet Marcus had created. "This shows every financial contribution I've made to this family over the past 3 years. $47,000. How much has Jessica contributed?" They looked at the screen, and I watched their expressions change as the numbers sank in. "Sarah, that's not fair," Mum said finally. "Jessica is struggling financially. She's trying to find her path in life." "For 3 years, Mum?" "She's been trying to find her path for 3 years while I've been paying for it." "You have a good job," Dad said. "You can afford to help. Having money doesn't mean I'm obligated to give it away. And having family doesn't mean you get to steal my possessions." "We didn't steal anything," Mum snapped, her composure finally cracking. "That car was parked in our garage, under our roof. We saw an opportunity to help our daughter who was in genuine crisis, and we took it." "Mum, the car was registered in my name. I have the title. Taking it without my permission and selling it is theft, regardless of where it was parked." "Sarah, you're talking about your family like we're criminals," Dad said. "This is ridiculous. We can work this out. Maybe we can help you find another car, work out some kind of payment plan." "I don't want another car. I want my car. Or I want the $15,000 you got for it." They looked at each other, and I could see the exact moment they realized I was serious. "We don't have $15,000, Mum said quietly. "What do you mean you don't have it?" "We used it to pay for Jessica's retreat and catch up on some bills. The credit cards were getting pretty high, and we were behind on the mortgage payment." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "You spent my car money on your bills?" "Sarah, it was all family expenses. Everything we did was for the good of the family." "No, it wasn't. It was for the good of everyone except me." I pulled out the letter Emily had prepared and handed it to them. "This is a formal demand for the return of my car or compensation equal to its value. You have 7 days to respond." Dad looked at the letterhead and his face went pale. Sarah, you actually hired a lawyer? Yes, I did. How could you do this to us? We're your parents. How could you steal my car? You're my parents. Mum was reading the letter, her face getting paler with each line. Sarah, this says we owe you not just for the car, but for excessive financial contributions. It says you're claiming we've exploited you financially. Because you have. We provided you with a home, Dad said, his voice rising. We fed you, housed you, treated you like family. You treated me like a bank account. There's a difference. Mum looked up from the letter, and for the first time in the conversation, her voice was small. Sarah, we can't pay this. We don't have this kind of money. That's when I knew I had them. That's when I realised the power dynamic in our relationship was about to shift permanently. Then you have a problem, I said calmly. Because one way or another, I'm getting what I'm owed.